Good evening and welcome to Soulful Sundown. I am Nancy Reed McKee. I am the ministerial intern at Shelter Rock this year. And on behalf of the members of this congregation and the ministry team, I'd like to welcome you here. The full-time ministers are Reverend Ned White, Reverend Natalie Fenimore, and Reverend Jennifer Brower, who is on sabbatical at this time. It's my pleasure to welcome you here tonight. I want to offer a warm welcome to our special guest minister visiting with us from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of South Fork, east of here in Bridgehampton, and that's Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson. In our Soulful Sundown services, we make the space in our lives to reach out. We reach out to those around us, to our community of people, and we reach towards something greater than ourselves, to what some call the divine spark and some may call God. And we reach within, through the clutter of our interior lives, to find that which resides at our center and gives us life. As Unitarian Universalist people of faith, we believe there is no separation between the sacred and the secular. We see glimpses of the eternal within and beyond. We find the holy in silence, in the spoken word, and in our music. At Soulful Sundown, music is an essential element in our spiritual practice. Here at Soulful Sundown, you're encouraged to engage your spirit, your mind, and your body, and you're invited to sing and hum and dance, or stand and sway as the Spirit moves you. Now let me introduce our band members. Tonight's Cosmic Orchestra includes Ben Wish on the keyboards, Eugene, I'm not going to say it right, Ruffalo, Mark Schulman on guitar, Pat Folco on the bass, Erica Lee, our vocalist, and Chris Marshak, who is our band leader and drums and percussion. Our coffee house, which is hosted tonight by Ben Wish, will be held shortly after the service across the way in the social hall. I'd like to welcome and introduce our featured artist, Andrew Fortier, who will be playing at the coffee house. Is Andrew here? There. Welcome. And you'll find refreshments, including gluten-free cookies, if you look hard enough. If you have attended Soulful Sundown before, you know that an important part of our collective work is the offering we take each month for an organization outside the congregation. Tonight's collection will be taken for the Center for Ethical Living and Social Justice Renewal in New Orleans, and we'll tell you more about that work later. Now, before we move into our music and meditation, please be reminded to silence your cell phones.
So I have not done this before. I think what's happening is a chalice lighting and a reading and the music, yeah? So that's what's happening. We light our chalice at the beginning of our worship as a symbol of our shared faith as Unitarian Universalists. But when I think about lighting the chalice, I also know that for generations, for centuries, maybe millennia, people have lit fire for shared warmth as they tell their stories to each other, as they listen to each other's stories, and to light their path. And so we light our chalice as we hear some stories and maybe light our path on this part of our journey this evening. And I am going to start us off with a story. It's a lengthy story, so you can sit if you want. Lengthy is. A story that I had heard years ago in different versions, but it's written by Lauren Isley, who is an educator and a philosopher and an anthropologist, about the star thrower. One evening, Ainsley says, walking along the beach, ahead of me, a rainbow had sprung, shimmering into existence. I discerned a human figure standing within that rainbow. Eventually, he stooped and flung an object far beyond the breaking surf. I continued toward him, and by the time I reached him, he was starting to kneel again. In a pool of sand and silt, a starfish had thrust its arms stiffly up and was holding its body away from the stifling mud. "It's still alive," I ventured. "Yes," he said, and with a quick and gentle movement, he picked up the star and spun it into the sea. It sunk in a burst of spume, and the waters roared once more. "It may live," he said, "if the offshore pull is strong enough." He stooped again, oblivious to my curiosity, and skipped another star neatly across the water. "The stars," he said, "throw well. One can help them." Yes, but there must be tens of thousands of starfish on this beach. I am afraid you won't be able to make much of a difference. Every time you save one, another one washes up. Often, the same one washes up. You can't save them all. So why bother? Why does it matter anyway? The man considered me silently for a while, starfish in his hand. He answered, "Well, it matters to this one." And then he flung the starfish into the welcoming sea. I nodded and walked away. Later, silently, I sought and picked up a still living starfish, spinning it far, far out into the waves. I understand, I thought. Call me another thrower. Only then I allowed myself to think, he is not alone. After us, there will be others. I picked up and flung another star. I looked back, small and dark against the receding rainbow. The star throwers stooped and flung once more.
Stumble out of bed each day and struggle to be free. Stood by an ocean raging blue. Big wave cracked and I fell down there with you. Fell in with you. I scoured the land in the sunset glow. You think you know, my friends, you just don't know. That's why the heart is a mystery. Break it in two and you'll see things you couldn't see before. I searched for you, found and lost you on the way. I searched for you over the hills of a better day. I searched for you, every mile to comprehend. I searched for you, and I'll do it again. Should only frame you in a metaphor, not cast you off in our own image anymore. Big questions etched across the sky, the weight and reason of everything we like to know. I searched for you, over the hills of a better day. I searched for you, and every mile I couldn't comprehend. I searched for you, and I'll do it again. Saw the blessing, I saw the curse. I've seen my best and I've seen my worst. Seen a lot of beauty and I've seen a little hate. The great indifference and the twist of fate. Seen a little passion and empathy. The power and the greed of the me, me, me. I've seen a lot of suffering and seen a lot of good. Felt the big light love of a neighborhood. A needle in the arm and the sadness grows. The holy and the hidden and the outcast soul. Seen a lot of surplus but in the wrong place. And in the eyes of the broken, I thought I saw your face. I searched for you, found and lost you on the way. I searched for you, over the hill of a better day. I searched for you, now I'm stranded here in a passion play. I searched for you, give me a sign, I'll be the straight away. I searched for you, stood in line till I don't know when. I searched for you, in every mile I couldn't comprehend. I searched for you, and I'll do it again. The heart is a mystery. Stumble out of bed each day and struggle to be free. Stood by an ocean raging blue, and I searched for you.
Gilder Radner wrote, "I wanted a perfect ending. Now I've learned the hard way that some poems don't rhyme and some stories don't have clear beginning, middle, and end. Life is not about knowing, having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next. Delicious ambiguity." Reflecting on those words, Marisol Cabarella responds, "How is it that I, as a minister and known skeptic, am able to A, not around screaming that the sky is falling, and B, do my job at all?" This question perplexes those belonging to religious traditions that offer comfort in the form of certainty. For some, answers to life's toughest questions offer reassurance that there is order in this chaotic world and in our sometimes chaotic lives. For others, such as myself, the great mystery does not cause panic, but instead eases my mind, reminding me that I just don't have to understand or know everything, that we are all just feeling our way through this life together. No one is an expert, which, for those who expect a minister to be an expert at all things crucial and who look to clergy to get them through the most difficult days of their lives with reassuring certainties, I would definitely not be the one to call. As a chaplain, I once had a patient who was dying. Though he was unable to speak, he could communicate by writing on a legal pad. He told me that he was afraid. I asked him what he was afraid of, and he wrote, "I've never done this before." This patient was deeply Catholic, yet I knew him well enough to understand that his honesty about the unknown was more a request to witness the reality of his anxiety about the unknown, rather than to disabuse him of it. questions of the hereafter have always struck me as the easiest to enjoy for their ambiguity. It's almost as if I don't want any spoilers on the surprise adventure that awaits me after I die. Lately, however, it seems that so much of our living world, the here and now, is more topsy-turvy than usual. It's a human spiritual need to want to make sense out of the events of our lives. We not only want, but we need life's unexpected changes to have a deeper meaning. It's not a perfect ending or poems that rhyme. We would at least appreciate a clear beginning, middle, and end every once in a while. It's much harder to treat daily ambiguities as adventures we should face with excitement, especially as big changes seem to have a way of raining down all at once. The longer I live, the more I am taught the same lesson over and over by wildly different circumstances. The more I expect the unexpected, the more I roll with the punches of life's tragedies and revel in life's joys and victories, the more I give in to the reality that I am not as in charge of and cannot plan as much of this life as I would like to, the more I can fully experience and even come to enjoy the deliciousness of the journey's ambiguity.
When I was a boy each week, Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would eat the holy word, consecrate the holy bread. Everybody would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two. Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, even better magic trick. Is anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare and best, I barely wet my fingertips. Now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of air. There used to be a world out there, second heaven made a hand me down. I walk it with a reverent in, 'cause everything is holy now. Questioning child's face, say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come. Say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world out there, 7 second-rate hand-me-down. I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Thank you.
I want to tell you a story, but first I want to tell you, I told this story to a group earlier this week, and afterwards, somebody came up to me and he said, you know, I could have told that story in half the time. And I thought, well, dude, I probably could have too. But I like a good story, and so I want to share this good story with you. It is an Afghani wisdom tale, teaching tale about a wooden sword. Once there was a king whose worrisome thoughts swirled around his head like a storm. He feared that his armies would lose battles. He fretted that his treasury would one day be empty. He suspected that his ministers were disloyal. He had no peace. One day, as the king stood at his window gazing at the crowds in the marketplace beyond the palace walls, he wondered, how do common people find happiness? Do they worry as much as I do? He sighed and said to himself, I wish I were a bird who could fly off and listen to their daily conversations. Suddenly, the king's eyes brightened with an idea. He called his servants to bring him the crudest clothes they could find. He ordered royal seamstresses to assemble a suit of rags and a hooded cloak. When the servants delivered these attire, standing before his mirror, the king carefully removed his crown, put on the rags, smudged some dirt on his face with ashes, and beheld. He appeared every bit a beggar. Pleased with his disguise, he crept from the palace. Even the guards did not recognize him. The disguised king walked freely through the crowds in the bazaar all day, observing the ways of common people. It was nightfall when he passed a rundown cottage at the edge of the city. Peeking through the window, the king saw a man sitting at a crude wooden table, eating a loaf of bread. The man's smile lit up the dingy room. The king eyed the meal and the humble surroundings. He wondered, why is this poor man so happy? Unable to quell his curiosity, he knocked on the door. I am a poor beggar, the king said in his humblest voice. Can you spare some food? Certainly, said the poor man. A guest is a welcome blessing in this house. I do not have much, but what I have is yours. The poor man's generosity dumbfounded the king. After the two seated themselves, the poor man piously blessed and cut the bread. The king accepted a share of the loaf and watched the man gaily chew the bread as if it were the finest meal. "Why are you so happy?" the king asked. The poor man replied, "It was a good day. I am a cobbler who repairs old shoes. Today I fixed enough shoes to buy a loaf of bread." "But what if tomorrow you do not earn your bread?" the king inquired. The poor man looked deep into the king's eyes. He saw the strain of worry had furrowed his brow. The poor man smiled and simply replied, "Day by day I have faith. All will be well." The king mused over these words and thought to himself, "This man's faith brings him happiness? He is naive. I wonder how happy he would remain with difficulty." So the king left the cottage, planning to test this man's faith. The next morning, when the man went out to ply his trade as a cobbler, he discovered that the king had issued a new law. A large sign in the marketplace read, "It is henceforth illegal for anyone to fix shoes. When shoes wear out, you must buy a new pair." The poor man sighed, but assured himself, all will be well. He glanced about the marketplace and noticed an old woman struggling with a bucket of water at the well. He rushed to assist her, and for his trouble, she handed him a coin. As the poor man fingered the coin in his hand, his faith in the future shone brightly. He carried water for people all day, and by sunset, he had enough money to buy himself dinner. Curious to see if his new friend would be happy without a meal, the king again disguised himself as a beggar, returned to the poor man's house. To his surprise, through the window, he saw the man eating bread and drinking a glass of wine. He knocked on the door, and the poor man brought him immediately to the table. The king asked, "How is it that you have enough for bread and wine this evening?" "I saw the new law. You're not allowed to fix shoes." "No, indeed, I did not," explained the poor man. "Today, I earned more than before carrying water for people. The loss of my first profession has made room for a new one. What if no one wants you to carry water tomorrow?" asked the king. The poor man looked into the king's eyes and simply replied, "Day by day, I have faith. All will be well." The king left the cottage bewildered by the poor man's faith. "He has not tasted hard times," thought the king. The next day, when the poor man went to the well, he saw that the king had yet again made a new law. The king's messengers posted a sign that read, "It is now illegal for anyone to carry water for anyone else." The poor man considered this predicament for a moment and looked around the marketplace. He noticed a man carrying wood from the forest on their backs. The poor man approached a woodcutter and asked if he needed an assistant. "Why, certainly," was the reply. And the poor man spent the day cutting and carrying wood for the market. By nightfall, he had earned enough for bread and wine and cheese. When the king, again dressed as a beggar, arrived at his cottage, the poor man invited him to come inside. And to the king's surprise, they shared an even finer meal. "How did you earn your keep today?" inquired the king. "I am a woodcutter now," said the poor man. "As I told you, I have faith, and you can see things are getting better all the time." The king grumbled as he left the cottage. "I must be far more clever in testing this man. Surely, when he cannot buy food for his belly, his faith will waver." The next day, the poor man went to join the other woodcutters. He found them surrounded by palace soldiers. The captain loudly announced, "The king has commanded that all woodcutters must report to the gate of the palace to become guards." The captain shuffled the poor man off with the rest. The poor man, now dressed stiffly in colored uniform with a sharp sword in a sheath at his side, stood guard at the palace gates all day. As the sun set, he went to the captain of the soldiers to request his pay. "Palace guards," the man replied, "are paid at the end of the month." With a sigh, the poor man set off for home. How would he buy his dinner this evening? As he passed a pawn shop, an idea came to him. He sold the metal blade of the sword for enough money to buy food for the entire month. "With what I earn today, by the end of the month as a guard, with what I earn by the end of the month as a guard, surely I can buy back the metal for my sword, and no one will be the wiser." The poor man rushed home and set a table for a fine meal. Before he ate, however, he busied himself carving a wooden blade to fill the now empty sheath he would wear at his side the next day. The king, once again disguised in rags, returned to the cottage and saw the food on the table. How did you buy this food today?" he asked in amazement, knowing that the man could not possibly have earned any money that day. The poor man explained, "I sold the metal blade of my sword for enough money to buy food for a month," never suspecting that the ragged visitor was the king. "That is not so clever of you," replied the king. "What if you must draw your sword tomorrow?" Once again, the poor man just replied, "Day by day, I have faith. All will be well." As the king left the cottage disguised as a beggar, he thought, "I have him now." The next day, the poor man stood in uniform, once again guarding the castle. The captain of the king's soldiers, followed by a noisy crowd, dragged a man accused of being a thief. The captain led the thief up to the poor man at the palace gate and gruffly said, "This thief has stolen a melon. The king orders that you cut off his hand immediately." The thief begged for mercy. He fell to his knees weeping, "Please, do not kill me. I had no food and my children were hungry." The poor man guarding the gate stood tall in his uniform and calmly considered the awkward situation. He thought, if I pull my sword to kill this man, I too will be beheaded. Everyone will see that the royal blade is missing. He pondered a bit more and then solemnly reminded himself, all will be well. As the large crowd watched, he lifted his arm to the heavens and cried out, "Blessed be to the Most High. If this man is truly guilty, give me the strength to serve the king's command. But if this man is innocent," he said, gripping the sheath at his side, "turn this sword into wood." Dramatically, he drew his wooden sword, thrust it high above his head. A gasp went through the crowd. "It's a miracle!" people exclaimed. Immediately, the man accused of theft was set free. At that moment, out of the crowd stepped the king. He approached the poor man in the guard uniform and asked him, "Do you recognize me?" The man replied, "You are the king." "No," replied the king, "I am the beggar whom you fed each night." The poor man's face spread with a smile, for he recognized the king's furrowed brow. The king smiled in return and said, "Tonight and every night, my friend, you will dine with me. Your light of faith can help chase away my dark fears in the future." And so it came to pass that the man who owned little but was rich in faith came to be a trusted advisor to the king. So they're going to play a song. But before they play the song, I'm going to let you in on a rumor that I heard, that sometimes people get up and move a little bit. Maybe they dance, maybe they sway, but their butts leave their seats. So maybe that could happen.
If your problems won't go away and you're worried night and day, hand it over. Get on your knees and pray. If you're sick, feeling low, got no money, got nowhere to go, hand it over. Get on your knees and pray. Hand it over, hand it over, give it up and give it over. Hand it over. Get on your knees and pray. Ain't no mountain you can climb, ain't no answer you can't find. All you need is a hand to hold. Heal your body, feel your soul. If the road is dark, you can't find your way, let the Spirit light the way. Hand it over. Get on your knees and pray. On your knees. All you need is a hand to hold. Heal your body, feel your soul. If the road is dark, you can't find your way. Let the Spirit light the way. Hand it over. Get on your knees and pray. Oh, hand it over. Hand it over. Give it up, give it over. Hand it over. Get on your knees and pray. Oh, hand it over. Hand it over. Give it up, give it over. Hand it over. Get on your knees and pray. Thank you.
So I didn't notice any dancing, but clapping, so that's like halfway. Now is your opportunity to serve others with the collection of our offering this month to the Center for Ethical Living and Social Justice Renewal. The center developed in 2005 after Hurricane Katrina and the federal flood that left New Orleans and its residents devastated. It began as a volunteer center that provided only lodging for volunteers coming to New Orleans. They later began to work to provide education around the structural issues of oppression and unequal access that shaped New Orleans before the flood and that was affecting New Orleans during the recovery. Today, the center serves as an important catalyst, connecting visitors and volunteers to grassroots partners, promoting social, economic, environmental, and racial justice through activism, engagement, and transformational learning. Checks can be made out to the Center for Ethical Living and Social Justice Renewal, which is very long, so also to CELSJR, CELSJR, and your offering will be gratefully, gratefully received. coming to the end of things. I have some final words for you on the subject of faith, this time from the Reverend Richard Gilbert. Given our best endeavor, the final result is not with us. I would share with you, my companion seekers, a few words seared into my soul, a doctrine of grace for those who use not its name. Given our best endeavor, the final result is not with us. Accustomed as we are to being masters of fate, creatures of will and self-determination, habituated to controlling a world, it is not easy to admit finitude. Programmed as we are to think that we control our destiny, to accept our capacity for being in charge, how hard to realize and to admit our limits. What a blow to pride created over the years, to fall on our knees, to wring hands in futility, to shed tears in utter helplessness. But given our best endeavor, the final result is not with us. This is not a formula to surrender to fate, no license to capitulate before hard realities, no excuse for retreat from harsh events. Best endeavor is no cover for moral cowards. It is only to say that we are not gods, only to underline our finitude, only to acknowledge our humanity, only to say we are merely actors in the cast, not directors of the play. This show must go on despite our forgotten lines and missed cues, to its uncertain conclusion. Given our best endeavor, the final result is not with us. Will you join now, I gather as customary, in a spirit of prayer or reflection or meditation, breathing out to make room, breathing in, noticing how you feel right now in your body, relaxing when you exhale, closing your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. Connecting to whatever it is in this world or out of this world that you have faith in. Whatever is your touchstone in times of doubt and uncertainty. The place where you rest when the world is too much. The place where you celebrate your great joys, where you offer your gratitudes. Find that place where you lay down your worries, your resentments, your grief. Whatever it is that you are struggling with in this moment, exhale and hand it over. Maybe it's only temporary. Maybe it will be lighter when you pick it back up. And when you breathe in the comfort and joy of this space, made sacred by your presence here, sacred by your breath, made sacred by the breath breathed here before you. Breathe in and be lifted up. Breathe out and know that you are not in charge. And you are not alone. Ashe, amen. Blessed be. I think we extinguish our chalice now. We extinguish our chalice. I want to borrow some words from Reverend Gary Kowalski, which are often used to light a chalice. I used them this past Sunday to light the chalice in my own congregation. But I have been thinking about them since then as we've been exploring faith. And so we extinguish our chalice with faith to face our challenges, with love that casts out fear, with hope to trust tomorrow. We welcome this day, this evening, this month, this life, for the gift that it is, a reason for rejoicing. So go forth with faith and hope and love. Be blessed and be a blessing.
into a curse. I never saw no military solution. It didn't always end up as something worse, but let me say this first. If I ever lose my faith in you, if I ever lose my faith, if I ever left my faith in you, if I ever lose my faith, if I ever lose my faith in you, if I ever lose my faith, if I ever lose my faith in you, if I ever lose my faith in you.
Thank you for $492 for the Center for Ethical Living and Social Justice Renewal. That is remarkable to me. It will be remarkable to them. Thank you. Good night. I understand there's coffee house. Coffee house. Go to the coffee house.